Welcome back. Google and the federal government are battling out in a trial next week in the first major antitrust lawsuit against a tech company in decades. Let's break it down tonight with the director of the Consumer Choice Center, Yaël Ossowski, up late with us tonight here on the Final Five. How much did I bungle that there?
Oh, you did pretty well. That was good. Thank you.
Good to see you tonight. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so this was interesting here because we've talked about so many of these lawsuits right now where we have the FTC really has gone on a spree lately. We talked about it with your colleague Stephen Kent a couple of weeks ago when it comes to other manufacturers and other companies out here. Let's talk about what's at the heart of this here.
What we got here is everyone's favorite search engine company, Google, now in the crosshairs. And this one's a bit different. This is coming from the Department of Justice and their antitrust division. And they're saying that Google's search engine, and they're only looking at the search engine part of it, that is a monopoly, and Google has used its power to maintain that monopoly, namely through deals with Apple and other phone carriers to make sure that they're the default option whenever you open up your phone and you find your search engine.
It's interesting because I know even from the get-go when it came to Apple, when it came to the iPhone, when it rolled out, immediately Google was all over it. It wasn't necessarily a Google app, but they seemed to have cut these deals with the likes of Apple and obviously with Android because they have their name on the software itself. But this is something that they've been quite successful with, getting this exclusivity with the different carriers or the different providers.
And a lot of us who are consumer choice advocates or who like technology would look at that and say, that's good business, because you're able to put together deals and we're able to use these products. And the greatest thing about this, it's a huge battle over the default. Okay. What is the default? The thing is, you still have a choice. As a consumer, when you pick up your phone, you can have any search engine that you want on there. It's just what is the default option. That's why the government is going to court. That's why other governments around the world have gone to court against Google, and I'm pretty sure this is not going to end anytime soon.
We had this big groundbreaking litigation years and years ago when it came to Microsoft, and when you had Microsoft with such a dominant presence when it came to Internet Explorer, which nobody uses at this point here, but there was so much baked into the Windows infrastructure that the government wanted to break down on that. Are there similarities?
Somewhat. You know, this has to do again with the default. When you had your PC, when you had your normal computer that was not an Apple computer, it was something that actually came from Microsoft, you had to use Windows, you had to use Internet Explorer, and you had to use their default bundle of apps. Now we're talking about Google being used on Apple phones. Totally different companies. There's a deal that's been arranged, but the default on the iPhone, when you go and you click, is Google search engine. But again, you can change it, I can change it, anybody can do it at any time.
So how long is this expected to go on for when we're talking about this court battle?
Well, it just started. It'll be starting this week. Probably it'll expect to go until end of November. So that means there's going to be a lot of argumentation. Hopefully we can be there tomorrow and hear those arguments. But there's going to be a lot of pressure from not just people in the government, but other people in the tech community who are trying to go against Google using the court system. So this is only the beginning. And again, this is just against Google right now. The European Union has already done it. They're trying to do the same in the UK. It's just the US's turn.
Well, what's the end game? Because you mentioned, unlike Windows, where you do have that baked in, where it's almost you have to use this, you can go in, you can change these. It's a little bit harder to do it. It's not something you do when you set up your phone for the first time, but there are options to make these changes right now.
Yeah, there are 3 clicks that you can do on your iPhone right now, change it away. If you're using a non-Android device, you can absolutely do that right now. The end goal really is to break up Google. Just like all the other companies, the idea that a lot of these people have who are in the antitrust movement is that bigness is a curse. Bigness is bad. Meanwhile, consumers, we have choice, we have low prices, great options, and the whole thing is it's free. So we're dealing with an environment where they want to break up this company, but we as consumers don't pay a dollar amount. That's how all other antitrust cases have been the last 100 years, and now we're in totally new territory.
So the last time we discussed something like this on the show again with your colleague was when it came to Amazon here. I'm sensing a pattern here when it comes to what we've seen, the actions taken by the administration over the last couple of years. Now that you have Biden appointees running the show here, there seems to be the next victim, so to speak, here as they look at the list of big tech.
There's definitely an anti-tech bias, and you know this is happening at this moment. But again, it's a strange moment because we have the rise of Chinese apps, Chinese tech. Younger people today are searching more on TikTok than they are at Google. Yet we're having an entirely huge case in the United States about how to break up Google. There's a lot of trends, and this is what a lot of us who are consumers and who like tech, the government is very far behind. And we're seeing that here. They're fighting yesterday's battles when we have tomorrow's technology that's interfaced now. There are totally different battles that they could be using their time. Instead, they're going after Google to
So because clearly there are effects that are going to happen here and down through the future. So we'll be watching this closely. Thanks for coming. Good to see you tonight.
You as well. Thank you.
And the Final Five is back right after this.